Johnsburg, February 22nd, 2024, special meeting of the President and Board of Trustees to order at 7:03. On the roll, Trustee Morris. Here. Trustee Hagan. Here. Trustee Klumstein. Here. Trustee Foreman.
Here.
Trustee Fall. Here. And show that Trustee Metzger is absent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with comments from the floor. Mr. Kartheiser asked if he could speak first.
Good evening. I'm Tom Kartheiser. I've lived in the community since 1996. I'm one of the co-founders of the Community Sailing School at Pistaki. It's a nonprofit organization in Johnsburg. We change lives one lesson at a time. I serve as the board chair. I have the privilege of leading a group of volunteers for the last 12 years. And those volunteers work 12 months a year to make a difference in the youth and families in our community. As I mentioned when I made my comments at your last meeting, learning to sail at PYC forever changed the lives of two of my children. And creating and serving the Community Sailing School as a founder and over the last 12 years is my way of paying it back to the community. There are a lot of people here from the community tonight, so I'm going to keep my comments short. These people motivate and inspire our volunteer board of directors. I'm certain they'll inspire you as trustees as well. Briefly, I'd like to review 5 accomplishments of the school since it was started in 2012. First, we've taught sailing to over 500 children, teens, and adults. We've delivered over 800 sailing classes. And as I've mentioned before, we've never had one serious injury or accident, yet we teach people how to navigate a boat powered only with wind on an extremely busy bay with predominantly powerboat traffic. Second, the sailing school has raised over $250,000. We've invested those funds to acquire a fleet of sailboats and coach boats, stand-up paddleboards, and personal flotation devices. We have invested heavily in instructor certification and training because our young adult instructors are entrusted with the safety of parents' children while learning a challenging sport that is not without some risk and some potential danger. We've invested in marketing, including social media and website development. That has allowed us to make a bigger impact and grow the school. We have provided numerous scholarships to financially disadvantaged families, and we've developed and implemented many innovative programs such as STEM sailing, where we teach science, technology, engineering, and math, which are all fundamental to sailing. Third, the sailing school has contributed thousands of hours of labor to maintain, improve, and preserve the historic Pistaki Yacht Club building. The school has led community volunteer teams for the past 13 years to scrape, prime, caulk, and paint PYC more than once. One of our founders, Sally Lucky Elkis, was born a few houses from north of PYC, and her uncle, Noah Pike, donated the lumber from his mill to build PYC in 1897. Sally co-founded the school with us in 2012, and at age 91, she continues to serve as one of the 7 volunteer board members. Sally inspires the board all the time. Fourth, the sailing school grows leaders. Many of them are here today. Our students have progressed from kindergarten novice sailors to expert sailors, to volunteer instructors, to paid instructors, to head instructors, to sailing school directors. And then they have developed to become a nurse, a firefighter, a policeman, a civil engineer designing solar farms, the director of Sail Newport, and a nationally recognized nautical educational leader, a physical therapist, a manager at Vail Corporation, an executive director of strategic initiatives at a marketing research firm in New Orleans, and soon a neonatal physician. And that is just to highlight a few of the young people who have had fundamental development opportunities. These young people have grown and developed on our floating classroom on Pisteki Bay. Last, today is quite a day of contrast for the sailing school. While the future of Pisteki Yacht Club, and therefore the community sailing school, hangs by a thread in the balance of this current challenge, the sailing school finalized and announced today that we will host a U.S. Sailing Adaptive Sailing Instructor course this May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And significantly, that course will be taught by the Betsy Allison. You probably are not aware of Betsy, but if you could each take one and read it later. Betsy is one of the most inspirational people that we could really imagine. It's a big deal that Betsy Allison, the Betsy Allison, is coming to Johnsburg to teach teachers at the community sailing school. Please read about it. I trust that you will be inspired. This is coming to our community. The school has been working for 1 year to add adaptive sailing to our curriculum. We have a great shot at a very significant multi-year grant from the Community Foundation for McHenry County to bring the adaptive sailing program to fruition. And we are bringing the top adaptive sailing instructor in the United States to Johnsburg in May. For over a decade, the school has taught kids on the autistic spectrum, as well as children with emotional and family challenges. Our goal over the next decade is to teach disabled veterans, adults and children with physical, emotional, and developmental disabilities how to sail adaptively, and in the process, how to preserve, how to overcome, and how to realize their full potential. Village board members, Johnsburg has indeed supported PYC and the Community Sailing School for decades. When we launched the Community Sailing School, the village featured the new organization in your Voice of Johnsburg Spring 2013 issue. If you could all take a copy and look at page 4, please. That's when we launched the school, and we appreciate all the support we've had since we began. Please read that. Look over what we said we were going to do in 2013. The Community Sailing School has achieved every single goal that was in your Spring 2013 issue. Looking forward to the next decade, we have so much more to offer to the youth, young adults, and the families in our community. Please continue to support the Community Sailing School as you have done so in the past. I trust that you will all head upwind. You will compromise with the Pisteki Yacht Club to find that win-win that will allow Johnsburg to continue to have two rare organizations, the Pisteki Yacht Club and the Community Sailing School at Pisteki, as part of our hometown with spirit. I now ask anyone speaking on behalf of our efforts to save our school to only focus on the positive aspects and to share what our school means to them. Let's all chart a course together. The Village of Johnsburg, the Pisteki Yacht Club, and the Community Sailing School at Pisteki. Thank you all for serving as trustees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, if you, Tom asked to open up the thing, this session tonight, this meeting tonight, with his comments. So I just want to remind you that comments are limited to 5 minutes. We let him talk longer just because he's winded, but that's okay. Okay, so we'll be timing the next ones, and you're limited to 5 minutes. Okay, otherwise you won't all be. We'll be here all night listening to you. So, Lori Kirk-Healy. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Lori. And if I pronounce your name wrong, I apologize.
It's okay.
And can you announce your name and your address when you come up, even though we got it, so we get it in the minutes right away?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Lori Kirkley at 4018 Pittston Road in Johnsburg. I am the one and only reason my parents came out here to Johnsburg, it was actually McHenry at the time, was because of the Pisteki Yacht Club. That was 50 years ago. I now have children. They are third generation learning how to sail at the Pisteki Yacht Club. My best friend of 50 years over there, Kim, we used to sail together on our Sunfish. And my kids, when they were younger, learned how to sail when they were around 4 or 5 years old. They became instructors, volunteers with the club, and my daughter excelled into being on her college sailing team. She was captain, and now she does the MAC race, the Queen's Cup, sails across Lake Michigan several times. It's been a wonderful yacht club. We have a lot of really good memories there, and there are so many kids that when you sail for the first time, it's a feeling you're never going to forget. And there's always been good camaraderie, good people, and I've always loved it there, and I've been there for 50 years, so I wish it well. And Tom said everything great.
Thanks, Lori. Thank you. Okay, Jim Gizaldo. Sorry, Jim, well, we got it close, right?
I'm Jim Gizaldo. My address is 26423 West Prospect Avenue in Antioch, Illinois. And I had a brief experience with the school. 2 years ago I took an adult class, and it was just a fabulous experience. I wanted to come out and testify to that. A couple of things that really stuck out to me was, one, the collaboration. The members of the yacht club were so supportive of me trying to learn sailing as an adult learner. But most specifically, many of the instructors, like you alluded to, were clearly kids who had grown up with this, and that you could see that it had formed their character. And I just think it's really a unique experience for teenagers, youth in this community to get out, fresh air, get off their screens, and just have a life experience. So, brief experience, but overwhelmingly positive, and wanted to come out and just testify to that.
Thank you. Thank you. Lily Lorraine Trudelar. Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good guess.
Pretty good. Hi, my name is, my address, 1697 Saddle Hill Road, Libertyville, Illinois. I have been a student at this yacht club since 2012. It has transformed me as a person through confidence, patience, and other skills like hardworking too. I go to Libertyville, which is a very different environment in my opinion from Johnsburg, but it also gave me a different outlook on life too. I'm also now an instructor, and I have been able to watch these students also evolve throughout the summer, to becoming shy kids to now becoming very confident in what they're doing. Their leadership skills are insane. Like, they're able to, in the beginning of the year when they're not even able to sail, they're able to show the new kids every week what to do, where to go. They become leaders themselves. But this yacht club has changed me as a person, and I've watched the instructors before me change drastically too. But this yacht club has meant the world to me for the past 10 plus years, and I really want to see this yacht club stay for the next 10 plus years and more. I think it's very important for the community around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sylvia Bryson.
I'm Sylvia Bryson. My address is 28792 Manitoba Trail in McHenry. When we bought a house here on the lake 6 years ago, my husband was thrilled to discover the yacht club. He'd been talking about retiring on a lake so that he could sail. He joined that first summer and quickly got involved with the club and the sailing school by managing and improving the harbor to make it better for all boaters, fixing and upgrading equipment, and helping with upkeep of the beautiful old clubhouse. He brought his knowledge as a harbor master from a prior sailing club to Pistaki. From April to November, he goes to the club multiple times per week, as well as working on club things at home. He immediately started crewing on a sea scow for Sunday racing, and soon thereafter purchased a boat from a club member who has purchased and passed on several of these boats to reinvigorate the fleet. Since then, he has purchased 3 sunfish, which they call dinghies, which are more easily sailed, and started a weekly dinghy night in combination with the sailing school in order to encourage more sailing on the lake. One of these sunfish never made it off the trailer before being delivered to another club member. Another would have been purchased by someone who would have become a club member, but with storage of boats in the lot an issue, he was afraid he wouldn't have a place to store the boat. My husband has also purchased a Flying Scot, a boat that can seat several people and is easier to sail. This led to another member purchasing 2 Flying Scots, and with the sailing school, we now have a fleet of 4. The plan is to start regularly scheduled cruising sailing. All of these efforts encourage sailing on the lakes and bring people into Johnsburg and the surrounding area. Limiting boat storage on our lot threatens the ability to bring together and expand the sailing community. I, on the other hand, am not a sailor, though my husband tries to get me out on the water. Instead, I enjoy kayaking, which allows me to enjoy the nature that abounds in the natural areas along the lake and channels. I would also see tires, containers, plastic, and other debris in the water along the shore, so I started fishing it out, and my husband has joined me in this endeavor. On each kayak trip, my goal is to retrieve at least one item out of the lake. I'm known as the tire lady since I started it, but now with my husband, we've pulled over 150 tires out of the water from within 1.5 miles of our home. Most of these have been brought back to shore by kayak. With the rest of the garbage pulled from the water, we have many times filled a large wheelbarrow. We also have unofficially adopted the Tanager Cames Forest Preserve between Pistake and Redhead Lakes and are cleaning the lakeshore and preserve by land. And I routinely pick up trash in the neighborhood and along the county road. Due to my husband's enthusiasm for the yacht club and sailing school, I have started helping out as a club as well. I've taken it upon myself to pick up trash in the wooded back lot, along Acre Lane, and along Rocky Beach Road. After helping clear buckthorn in a nature preserve, we have identified and started removing this invasive bush from the back lot as well. I've also helped with other backlot cleanup, landscaping, and clubhouse painting. I mention all of these things so that you can understand who we are. We are members of the yacht club, but we are also members of the community. We pitch in to build community through sailing. We pitch in to improve the area for all. Other members of the club also pitch in their own ways. We are the club. We are good neighbors to have. In addition, I recently became the treasurer for the club. In this capacity, I've become aware of not just the club finances and challenges, but also those of some of our members. The name Yacht Club projects an image of well-to-do folks, boating and enjoying cocktails. This is not who we are. Some members can only participate because it is affordable. Many of us need the club to provide an affordable way to access the lake. Having the backlot to store boats is essential to many of us to make sailing possible. This is true for boats on lifts in the water. It is even more essential for those who day sail and must be able to pull their boats down to the water to launch. Offering the ability to sail from the club and expanding our sailing activities is what helps us entice members to the club. We need members to keep the club viable today and long into the future. Eliminating or restricting our use of the backlot puts both the club and the sailing school in jeopardy. Knowing the joy that sailing brings to students of the sailing school, to members of the club, and especially to my husband, I am saddened by the possibility that the club could be in trouble. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you. Alice Arnold.
Could I speak from here? It's hard for me to get around.
You sure can.
Okay, so everybody could hear me. This is so moving. This is Johnsburg, and I hope you all vote to preserve it. You talk, Greg, you talk about, trying to get people to come to Johnsburg. They're coming, they're here. I don't know what started this, but it's, not right. It's not right that you're trying to close this. Why? Or the ordinance would certainly hurt the yacht club and the boating school. So why can't we work that out? What started this? Because there's no good information out there. May I ask that?
We'll address that later, Alice.
Pardon me?
We will address that as we go, okay? We want to get through all the people speaking.
Okay. Well, so please, Your pledge when you ran for office was to keep the small town aura. This is it. This is, what we have been since 1700s. Oh, don't take that away from the village. Thank you.
Tom Curry.
Tom Curry, 2017 Camden Court, Johnsburg. A little off topic, but I just noticed since you're cracking down on ordinance, are you doing anything about the non-highway vehicles that use Jack B's as private property to exit Dutch Creek onto Spring Grove Road and then travel illegally on Spring Grove Road to Marion? You put 4x6 posts up along McCullum Lake Road to block a McCullum Lake business owner's driveway because it's a Johnsburg road. McCullum Lake permitted the driveway, but we're not doing anything in a much more dangerous situation where the eyesight's blocked by fern and evergreens in our own town.
Laura King.
Hello, everybody. My name is Laura King, and I live at 2718 Tishfield Terrace in Johnsburg. So I am here to ask you all respectfully, possibly to beg you all, to not vote to approve the ordinance that is before you tonight about non-conforming building and uses, specifically adding the burden of proof in. I ask that because I do feel like the timing of this is convenient, based on what is happening at the yacht club, and I think that it's far more than coincidental. I also have done, since our last board meeting, I've done a lot of research in trying to understand what happened when Sunnyside and Johnsburg were brought together. With these properties that had variances for the county. And with a quick Google search, you can find some documents documenting the merger between the two towns and talking about the spirit of cooperation. And I will just read a very small excerpt from this, which is titled Sunnyside Johnsburg Make History in the State of Illinois by Johnsburg Village President Fred Dietrich. Meanwhile, I'm forwarding down to where this is relevant. Meanwhile, the Sunnyside Village Board set out to fulfill their informal promises to the Johnsburg residents. The Zoning Board of Appeals, under the chairmanship of Ken Schaefer, tackled the enormous task of zoning the additional 2,630 acres of property. Unfortunately, some of the zoning records no longer existed at the McHenry County Government Center. Moreover, the standards used to grant zoning variances or changes to zoning classifications in the early 1900s, when much of Johnsburg was developed, was a lot different than in 1991. County building and zoning records were searched, and the objective was to grant the same zoning classifications, variations, and special uses that had been approved over the years. To meet that objective, Sunnyside's zoning ordinance also had to be amended. I believe you have a record of that amendment. The search also revealed that many variations were granted to allow construction on narrow lots along the Fox River. Many times it was difficult to match up legal descriptions. And some parcels are in a state that only time will resolve. But I think the spirit of that message captures that it was the intent at the time of the merger for all variances that were granted by the county to remain granted by the county and not to affect the person's use. That use is what's specifically being called into practice, and the absence of those county records, which we believe we found many of now, but maybe they didn't back in 1991 where the current computers weren't as up to date as they are now. That was a void that was specifically addressed at the time when Johnsburg and Sunnyside came together by those persons who sat in your elected official seats. And there was a zoning commission hearing where they said, yeah, we know that there's variance here, we want this, and we want them to continue to use their land in that way. So more so than that, you guys know I'm a member of Passaic Yacht Club. I'm an adult sailor. I went to sailing school. I crewed on Rob C. Scow because Sylvia wouldn't go with him, and Rob threw me into the water, okay? He threw me into the water, so it's important you know how to swim. My boys go to school there. They go into the water on purpose. When I do it, it's traumatizing. When they do it, it's a lot of fun. But my point is can you please not vote for this ordinance, or at minimum, vote to delay it until we come to a resolution. We're very, very happy that we're in cooperative talks trying to resolve this matter, but I would ask the board to please consider getting rid of the third-party litigation. Lawsuits and fines have been imposed upon persons who have been keeping their boats being stored in the back lot, and I think it's a tricky tactic. I feel like these third-party persons have been imposed astronomical monetary fines for really doing nothing wrong. They're caught up in the midst of our legal battle, and it's just really not fair. I'm a taxpayer in this town. I own 8 different parcels. You guys, please, this is not a good way to spend the taxpayers' money. And I appreciate that we're in the midst of cooperation, and I know that we will come up with a win-win, but I am here as a taxpaying resident to ask you to stop paying, using taxpayer dollars to file third-party litigation, to drop those suits, and for us to work on a cooperative agreement without that heavy of these third parties, us being responsible for their fines being weighed upon us, and additionally for you to vote this ordinance down, which is specifically seemingly designed to deal with this issue with the yacht club. At least delay it until this issue with the yacht club is resolved, so that there's not any more heavy that can be used against us. Thank you, Greta.
Thank you. Leela Van Hype.
Hi, I live at 1302 Old Bay Road in Johnsburg. Hi, my name is Lila. I'm 12 years old, and I've been sailing with the community sailing school at Passaic Yacht Club since I was about 5 years old. The past few summers, me and my sister have spent the entire summer sailing. It has been an amazing experience, and it is what I enjoy and look forward to most about summer. I have never been on a sailboat before my first kinder sail class. Now I have my own sailboat, and I sail from my house to the yacht club on race nights. I've been an ambassador for the sailing school by sharing the opportunity to sail and presenting at my school, Johnsburg Junior High. I'm also a 2-time recipient of the Captain Wet Pants Award. This means that I like to get in the water a lot. The friendships and connections I've made are priceless. Truth is, I'd be lost without sailing to look forward to every summer. I hope one day I can become an instructor and teach other kids how to sail. The Community Sailing School at Passaic is a unique treasure in our community, and I am proud to be a part of it. I'm standing here tonight in effort to preserve it for kids like me and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Luce Van Hype.
Good evening, I'm Jennifer Luce Van Hefty, 1302 Old Bay Road. I'm Lila's mom. I've been a doctor serving in McHenry County for 21 years. I previously lived in Algonquin and Huntley, and now the last 13 years in Johnsburg. I remember in early years in practice coming across a client who lived in Johnsburg, and I thought, where is that? And still when I talk to people in McHenry County, I get the same question when I tell them where I live. My husband John and I have grown up on the Mississippi River, and him particularly boating with his family in the summers. So we searched extensively for many years for the perfect waterfront property. For me, my motivation was looking out the window and being inspired every day. For him, living on the water meant living a very active lifestyle of recreation that he'd grown up in, and sharing that with our family, Lila and Pippa. Well, the property we'd been searching for happened to be found in the charming town of Johnsburg. And we endure our long commutes to work and elsewhere because we enjoy raising our family in this small town. Waterfront living and everything that being a neighbor to PYC has to offer. The amenity that we most enjoy that's near and dear to our hearts is the Community Sailing School. We've been members of the PYC for most of our years here, and we've sailed with the school for at least the last 8 years. Our 2 daughters, Lila and Pippa, have grown up in the sailing school and look forward to spending every minute of every summer day there. This is what anchors our family right here, pun intended. As a mom, I can appreciate that my kids are engaging in good old-fashioned fun and socializing authentically. There's no time for devices at sailing school. They don't miss some either. They're learning great life skills, and they're having the time of their life doing it. Johnsburg's history speaks of a vibrant sailing community with one of the longest operating clubs in the country. Through our family travels to other sailing locations, we have come to appreciate how truly special this is. There are a great number of incredible individuals working really hard and volunteering their time and energy, building momentum to revitalize sailing here, bringing back bigger races that we used to host, providing more opportunities for our sailors and the community as a whole, restoring the vibrance PYC was known for, and once again putting Johnsburg on the map as a sailing mecca, as a great place to visit, as an awesome place to live. It's not really difficult to find a body of water to live on, but it is priceless to find one with the rich heritage that we enjoy with the PYC right in our backyards. So I stand here tonight in hopes that we can find a way to preserve the rich history and encourage and support its future, because if it were to fail and we were to lose everything it was, is, and could be, that would be devastating for our community.
Thank you. Kimberly Larson Wilkin.
Hello, thank you for being here. Kim Larson, 4104 Pitson, Johnsburg. I apparently have been going to the yacht club 50 years. I didn't realize it had been quite that long, but I did the math in my head and it has been 50 years. And a few years ago, my 3 oldest grandkids started at the yacht club and loved it. And hopefully this summer I have 2 of the next family of grandkids are going to be taking lessons at the yacht club. And one of the things that's really special about sailing in general, it was for me, and I found it was for the youngest of the first set of 3. He didn't have that like natural athletic ability that his mom or his older brother and sister had, and it's a sport that you can do by yourself. I think golf is the only other thing that's come to mind right now. He felt that pressure of being on a team. He didn't want to play baseball. There was too much pressure. And there's no pressure with sailing. It's all you. So it really helped him in all sorts of areas of his life. I just wanted to share that. That was great for Drew. And one of the great things of being in Johnsburg is truly the heritage and the history of Johnsburg in general, but the yacht club specifically. And I just wanted to, I took just a quick note. I remember getting village stickers at Hedderman's at the bar with my dad, so I've been around for a while. But no other body, I just learned this not too long ago. No other body of the world, this is according to a Tribune article, in the world has been home to so many boat racing champions. The very first world record-setting driver from the Fox Channel Lakes was Pistaki Yacht Club Commodore and Coon Island resident James Pugh. That was in 1915. He was driving a boat called the Disturber 4. I just wanted to share that because that's part of what makes it so special, is that it's been around so long and has impacted so many lives. Thank you for being trustees.
Thank you. Thank you. Rob Bryson.
I'm back. I'm going to try to fill in some details. So my name is Rob Bryson, 28792 West Manitoba Trail, McHenry. Last time I was here, I suggested it would be helpful in coming to an agreement if more information was shared about the operation of the club. So I'm back to do that. The club has struggled over the years, and it has struggled in the last 10 years. And our approach to growing, or keeping the club healthy, was to grow. And we've been able to do that, which has given us some financial security, but we still have major projects that we need to do in the building. So, so we still need to grow. So what's that growth strategy resulted in? The growth strategy has resulted in more use of the back lot. At the beginning of last year, we had about 30 boats and trailers in the back lot. Members that use the back lot pay other fees, which makes them the largest financial contributor to the club. Now, I've heard that the lot has been referred to as a junkyard. I spent a lot of time in that back lot, and so I would like to give you my perspective on that back lot. The majority of the boats and trailers in that back lot are actively used. I have agreed, and we have agreed with you that there were a few exceptions. And I'm going to let you know that we have addressed those few exceptions, and we have shown a willingness to change our policies so that doesn't happen in the future. The other thing we do is we move all those boats frequently so the grass is cut underneath it, so we can keep that back lot looking good. When we received the letter on May 4th saying that we needed to vacate that lot, I was alarmed. I have been recruiting people, and part of the recruiting is telling them about how they can use the back lot. So that was really, personally upsetting for me. So then we've had some negotiations back and forth, and that obviously hasn't got us to where we need to be. But in those negotiations, we did say we would like to have 50 boats in the back lot, and I want to talk about that. That's really part of our growth strategy. And so how do we grow? So we have a benefactor at the club who buys boats, and he gets people out sailing, and then eventually people become owners of those boats. I'm one of those people that's become an owner of that boat. Our Sea Scow fleet was at 3. Our Sea Scow fleet now is at 8. Okay, the Sea Scow though is a racing boat, and it's not for everyone. And so how else are we going to grow? We're going to grow by having other boats. And so we're starting to bring a dinghy fleet, and I did put a picture up there of what a dinghy is. So if you could pass that around, right there, thank you. That'll help you see what a dinghy is. A dinghy is a small boat, only about 4 feet wide and about 13 feet long. And so they don't take up a lot of room. And so if we have dinghies, we can put a lot of dinghies in the back lot. One of the places that sells dinghies around here is the Lake Bluff Yacht Club, and in their storage area, they have up to 50 in a space that about a quarter the size of our back lot. And so that's one of the things that drives our number up. The other thing that we've already talked about is that we also want to expand the type of sailing, so cruising sailing, and that means more boats and to support that activity. So that's really the reason that we are proposing, or that was suggested, that we have more boats back there. So on the September 19th letter, there was a suggestion that we could have 16 boats in the back lot. So what would that mean to our club? That would mean we'd have to change our strategy. We'd have to become an exclusive club with people willing to pay a lot of money. Because with 16, that's all we could be. We could be an exclusive club. That would put me up. I'm a retired guy, fixed income. It's not my thing. And so I'd be out. What I do have to offer the club is time, though, and time is a very valuable thing to a yacht club. So I think keeping people like me involved in the club is a good thing. So today we're struggling to survive. That's the reality. The declaratory judgment that we requested has turned into a long, drawn-out legal affair, and it's costing us a lot of money, and I'm sure it's costing you a lot of money. And then what do we tell our members today? We can't say, hey, guess what, the back lot's going to be available to you this year. We can't tell them that right now. And so what's happening? they have choices to make. And the choices that they can make are, they can find alternate storage, they can sell their boat and get out of the sport, they can join another club. Unfortunately, some people have done 2 and 3, sold their boats and got out of the club. They're gone to other clubs.
So Bryson, if you can wrap it up.
Yeah, you can wrap it up here.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. So, I think you've heard it. Everyone wants this club in the community. And so I guess, what I would say is, I believe we can come to an agreement. So let's not waste any more money on legal fees. Let's try to find a way to come together. And I think we all want the same thing. So let's do it.
Wayne Effling?
My name is Wayne Effling. I live at 5013 Hickory Lane. I'm not a member of the Passaic Yacht Club. You may think that disregarding a long-held zoning variance and forcing the boats off the lot across from the yacht club might only affect a few local boat owners. But as you know now, it affects more than that. It'll affect people my age, people younger than me, kids like my older brother, my younger sister, my friend Jill here. I've sailed with a couple other people here too. And many, many others who are lucky enough to be part in the community sailing camp through the Passaic Yacht Club. My siblings and I participate in the camp each summer, and lessons we learned are the lessons that all kids can benefit from: leadership, teamwork, and perseverance. Our community is blessed to have the Fox River and Passaic Bay and the beauty and fun they offer. Relatively few Johnsburg residents have the good fortune to actually live on the water, but the community sailing camp at Passaic Yacht Club offers a week or more of that feeling of being on this precious resource to anyone. Please do not vote to end the zoning variance that allows the yacht club to store the boats. It can end a happy summertime tradition for many children and close the doors of opportunity that were open to me because of the sailing school. Now I'm able to be an educated part of the sailing team at Marquette University, which is an opportunity I would have never had if it weren't for the yacht club. Thank you.
Jillian Meyer?
My name is Jill Meyer. I live at 5126 Tall Oaks Drive, Ringwood. And I was a student in the sailing school at Passaic Yacht Club for 4 years. If this decision forces the yacht club to close down, you are going to deprive the children of this community and other surrounding communities of this amazing learning experience that is unique to the town of Johnsburg. Not only is the yacht club providing children with enjoyable memories, but they are learning a valuable skill that can be useful through their lives. The skills I learned in sailing school enabled me to have the courage to rent a catamaran on a family vacation because I knew I could properly guide it. But that's just the beginning of what I learned. I learned how to dock, how to tie knots, and boat safety. The yacht club teaches their sailors rules of the water. For example, we learn the proper right-of-way while using a watercraft and how to respect the chain.
Thank you. Quinn Sharp?
Hi, my name is Quinn Sharp. I'm a 403 Carrywood Circle. Sailing school, I would say, is possibly one of the best things that has ever happened to me during the summer. I am lucky to have met them, and I would say that they have taught me and opened my life to new friendships, possibilities, jobs, and overall, probably maybe my favorite place to spend the summer. The people here, as you can see, are some of the best you could ever hope to meet. Throughout my time here, I have been making friends with possibly everyone here. Here at the yacht club, I stayed away from my phone, as previously mentioned. And they have also taught us many things about sailing, including math, science, technology, engineering, and just how to drive a boat. They've also taught me possibly the most important of life lessons like leadership, decision-making, navigating, and even teaching. While I'm sailing, I'd like to say that I am the best person I can be. Not too long ago, my family took a vacation to Maryland to see the boat show, and that was possibly one of the best moments of my life. And I slept good. I just cannot fathom not having the sailing school to come back to during the summer. It's one of the few things I look forward to the most at summer. This year, I am happy to say that should they allow it, I will be volunteering my time to work at the sailing school. I'm very happy to say this again. I really do not want to lose the sailing school, and I don't think anyone else does. So please don't close it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lyle Jacobson.
My name's Lyle Jacobson, 403 Perrywood Circle, Perry, Illinois. I've been called a lot of things. My favorite thing is voter. I've been voting my whole life. I've voted on pretty much everything you can think of. I used to live on the Fox River. I voted at the Chain of Lakes since I was a little kid. And when I met Quinn and Liam, I was dating their mother at the time. I was married. But we were looking for something for them to do. And I always found sailing when I was a kid to be a great activity. It was one of the things that kept me out of trouble most of the time. And their growth from going to the sailing school. They were very shy boys when I first met them. Now, we just met one of them. He's able to speak in front of a crowd. It's taught him leadership, friendship. The biggest thing that was surprising me, everybody talks about safety, and of course it's important and stuff, but responsibility is bigger, I think, and situational awareness that they've learned with, motorboats and the sailboats and everything, and just what to grab and what to do without even thinking about it at the proper time. I think it's an invaluable asset to your town to have this for your kids, instead of, like Quinn said, playing video games or on his phone. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Liam Sharp.
My name is Liam Sharp. I live at 403 Perrywood Circle. Today I was asked to support the sailing school by sharing a speech, but please understand, speeches are not my forte. That being said, I'll do anything to support the sailing school because of the impact it's had on me. The sailing school and the yacht club community have become an inspirational part of my life. I've established friendships and memories I know I'll look back at when I'm older. Prior to the yacht club, or prior to the sailing school, I was a kid with very little social skills and I struggled to talk to people. But the sailing school has created an environment where I feel comfortable talking to people and being myself. The staff have also inspired me to pursue my dreams and push me to be a leader for the other kids. Speaking of which, I can thank the staff for helping me discover my love for sailing, which has led me to pursue the military path through the Naval Academy. Sailing isn't just about the skills you learn, it's also about the voyage you take. I would consider myself lucky to become a sailor through the community sailing school at the state, and I wish the same for other kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Jacobson.
Kimberly Jacobson. I live at 403 Perrywood Circle, Perry, Illinois. I have not had the pleasure of living in Johnsburg as a resident, but I have had the pleasure of serving in Johnsburg as a nurse, as both home health and hospice. My boys, who you just met, Liam and Quinn, When they started here at the sailing school, it was an answer to a prayer. They had aged out of daycare or day school for the summer. We didn't know what we were going to do. Can't leave anybody under the age of 14 at home by themselves. We had to find an option. They loved the sailboat that we had the opportunity to use on Lake Michigan, and Lyle was great enough to find this opportunity. The sailing school worked with us. I was a single mom. I had a limited income, and they were fortunate enough to get partial scholarships for the boys in order to attend the sailing school. As you can see, they have grown. They are now leaders in their community. They have tried very hard to create a team for a high school team in this community. It's still in the works. We're still trying to get the people we need for that. Closing the sailing school because you're closing the PYC would be detrimental to the community as a whole. You have children who love the water, who grant the opportunity to learn how to be a part of the community by enjoying their time in the community. The sailing school was founded in 2012 and has provided services for the Johnsburg community and many others, including no-cost scholarships for students here in Johnsburg. They've taught at the high school. They've taught STEM. My boys, Liam and Quinn, as I said, aged out of regular camp. And we met with Kathleen. We met with a couple of the other people from the PYC. And we learned about Johnsburg. We learned about the history of the sailing community here. My husband has been a sailor for many, many years. He actually has sailed on the chain of lakes. I didn't have that opportunity as a kid. But my boys have loved every minute of sailing school. We've watched them grow. From Quinn being known as the phone kid his first year, because he never put his phone down, to now being able to have the opportunity to volunteer and teach the younger students how to operate in a community, how to teach them water safety. Their experiences with sailing school has made them confident young men on the water, watching out for the younger sailors, teaching them about the wind, the water, safety on the lake, the opportunity for them to give back what was given to them. Taking away the last yacht club on the chain of lakes would be detrimental to this community, but also to future generations. Children whose main job is to experience the community as a whole, to grow and maybe bring their own families here, to keep that community going. You went from Sunnyside to Johnsburg. Imagine what Johnsburg can become in the future if we continue to bring in all of these people to enjoy what you have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Morgan.
Linda Morgan, 906 Highland Avenue, Wakanda. I wanted to inform you of the impact the transformation that the sailing school of CSSAP has had on my son, Cole Morgan. Cole has sailed with CSSAP for 2 summers now. When he started at the beginning of the summer of 2022, he had never sailed before. And he was not sure that he was even interested in sailing. But that quickly changed, and he's become obsessed with sailing. Cole picked it up very quickly, as the instructors are fantastic here, but simply took the opportunity to be exposed to this beautiful sport to realize what he would have been missing. Cole sailed 5 days a week for most of the summer. I found it to be a wonderful experience for him to be outside during the summer, enjoying nature, learning a new sport, and making new friends. He gained muscle along with a ton of confidence. Sailing is very relaxing and reduces anxiety. Cole loves the physics of sailing as well as the beauty of the boats. He has shown great leadership, maturity, and responsibility. Getting up in the morning when he has to go sailing is never an issue. My son getting to be on the water all day versus being indoors playing video games makes me a very happy mom. After each day of sailing, I receive a full rundown of play-by-play of his day. I hear all about the different boats he's sailed on and how the boats are rigged. I get to know which sailboat he prefers to sail on, which is the 420. Another thing I was not expecting is that he talks about the wind all the time. Wherever we are, if there's a gust of wind, he gets excited and says, "I wish I was sailing right now." Since sailing 5 days a week was not enough for Cole, he started going to the Sticky Yacht Club on Sundays to be available to crew with any yacht club member sailing in the Sunday sailing races that were shorthanded. If anybody's willing to pick him up, he would ride with them. These races are quite competitive, but members started to look for Cole for their crew as they saw that he was a good sailor and instinctually knew what to do with the change of the wind and to keep the boat on course. He had good instructors. This past year, Cole was a volunteer, so he could start learning how to become an instructor when he got older. He has already told me that he wants to be an instructor at CSSFP as soon as he's old enough. How many 14-year-olds are planning their summer jobs for when they turn 16? But Cole has a plan. He loves sailing, and he loves sailing with CSSFP, and he wants to be just like the instructors that have taught him. He wants to pass down what he has learned there to other kids. He will do whatever is necessary to become an instructor. Additionally, Cole has already started looking even further than the next couple of years. Cole's thinking about colleges. And he says he must go to a college that has sailing offered as a sport, preferably a competitive racing program. He's hooked on the sport, and it amazes me sometimes to think that it may have been something he never tried, and it makes me sad to think about what he could have missed. Come across this fantastic opportunity for him of sailing has changed his life. And I just want to thank the entire team at CSSFP, the instructors, Tristan, Mackenzie, Jacob, Alana, Cyrus, Lily, Ashley, Max, Natalie, Reed, and many others that have come before them, and many that I may not have named. And thank you to the board at CSSFP for creating such a beautiful environment and experience for all of these children. Thank you.
Thank you. Cole Richard Mergen.
Hello. Now 6 Highland Avenue. So I've only started sailing 2 years ago, and I never thought of the impact it would have on my life. I've now gained many experiences and friends and so many other things. I've learned much more responsibility. My character has developed to a much higher level. As my mom told you before, I'm on the path to become a sailing instructor, and I would enjoy to teach many other people. Before, my teaching skills were subpar, to say the least, but now this is developing a new pathway for me, and it is really important. The sailing school has done so much. I have many fond memories, many new friendships that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise staying inside the house all summer long. So I find the sailing school really important for me and many other people. I've now become very involved in sailing. It's an enjoyable activity that many other kids experience. And I'm just one person. There are so many other people here who also have similar experiences and love the sailing school as much as me, or maybe even more. It would be terrible to take away the work that my Aunt Kathleen and many others have done to give these kids and also adults the opportunity to sail and have a community here at the sailing school. And it'd be horrible to take away the opportunity for these kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Flagg.
Tough act to follow on. Jeff Flagg, 1714 Tall Tree Lane, Johnsburg. Not here to speak on behalf of the sailing school, however, I'm here to speak on behalf of my disappointment in the fact that this has come this far. Mostly, we have many ordinances in the village. Many ordinances, in my experience, that are enforced. I'll give you my neighbor as an example. My neighbor has had, we moved into our house a year and a half ago. Our neighbor has had a broken down car back in their driveway, sitting there, hasn't moved in a year and a half. We have all these ordinances that the village depends on us to call in and enforce, yet this seems like a personal attack on one individual business / not-for-profit. I did a little bit of homework on the situation, and it seems that there's a village employee that owns an adjacent lot next to the lot at hand, and it seems like this may be a personal vendetta. Thank you.
John Katzenmeyer.
Hi, John Katzenmeyer, 2515 Long Lane, and thank you for letting me address you this evening. I'm here primarily to speak on behalf of the Community Sailing School, and I just want to tell you a little bit about myself first. I lived right down the street here on Sunnyside, when it was Sunnyside on Dennis Boulevard, and I spent a lot of time in this community. I believe in the spirit of this community. I help out with the sailing school as a volunteer. I'm the current executive director on the board. And I share that because I think if I didn't feel strongly about this community the way it is, I probably would not do that. Just like the name of the school itself, it's the Community Sailing School. And the way I see this, it's really sort of about three different entities, the sailing school, the yacht club, and the village. And there's sort of a symbiotic relationship between the three. They've created traditions together. We have, as a sailing school. And I think there's a book here, it's called Johnsburg and Pistakey Bay. Some of you might have seen it as part of a series. It's only 6 chapters long. And the 5th chapter, about 10 pages, where it says Sailing the Bay, the Pistakey Yacht Club. And it's full of stories and pictures of history and traditions. And then the 6th chapter, titled Sailing the Bay, Sailing the Bay, the Pistakey Yacht Club. 6 chapters at play at Pistakey Bay. And it's about 50 pages, about a third of the book is dedicated to the bay itself. And there's a common thing in here that I've noticed, it's boats. And for our sailing school, boats, sailboats, and some of the power boats that we use are our lifeblood. I honestly don't think it's the desire nor the intent of the trustees to shut down the sailing school or the yacht club. I don't believe that for a moment, but I do ask that you think, before any kind of ordinance is enacted, the ramifications by denying the sailing school or the yacht club to have boats on the premises. It'll basically be the end. And I hate to see tomorrow's headline, the boats have been sunk or something like that. It really comes down to, in my opinion, that as trustees, when you vote and when you enact ordinances, please think about the ramifications of what can happen. These boats actually serve many purposes. They're recreational. They're also for tourism, commerce, all kinds of different things. Education, of course, is a sailing school. So it's really about the boats more than maybe just the yacht club or the sailing school or the village ordinances. So how can some kind of amicable resolution be found to resolve this issue? It's not us against them or this or that or the other, the way I see it, but to use some common sense. What can be done to keep the neighbors happy? What can be done to keep the sailing school up and running and thriving? Tom mentioned earlier about the adaptive sailing program. I'm the lead person on that. This is a phenomenal thing we're trying to do for the sailing school and the community at large. People with disabilities to come and be able to experience and enjoy the rewards of sailing. Can't do that without boats. We absolutely need to have those boats. We have to store them somewhere, somehow. So as trustees, as the president of the board, if you can just put your heads together, and we'll be glad to add our heads, and try to figure out how we can make everybody happy and still keep this tradition and the spirit of Johnsburg alive as it's been for so many years since it was founded. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd just like to sum it up, that we went through this at the last, yes?
I didn't get to sign in. I got just like 1 minute.
Okay, here. Sign in. We're easy on you.
Put my X on that.
Can I get one as well, Tim?
Sure. They're on the back counter back there.
They ran out.
There's an number?
Yep.
One second.
We can make a form.
You want to just write your name and address on
Hey,
it?
Kurt?
I'll be super quick. What else do I have to put in there?
Oh, sure. You can sign it.
Just put it without the town, it's okay.
Just put down your address and your name.
We're out of ink now.
That's right.
Oh, they were double-sided? There are two on one page? Oh, there you go.
There they are, right here.
They weren't there when I went there? There you go. They were hot.
Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, hi. My name is Kurt Donald, and I live right down the road from the yacht club, just a couple doors down. I go by it every day. I walk my dog by it every day, okay? So I see the yard that's in question. But I want to quote something by some of our founding fathers, Nicholas Pratt in 1841 when they founded Johnsburg. This is what he said. He said, "Here a man works for himself. Here one is equal to the other. Here no one must take his hat off to another. Every day we thank the Lord that he has brought us, so to speak, out of slavery into this paradise." So the question is, how do we honor this spirit? Out of all the neighbors that I've talked to in my neighborhood where the yacht club is, no one had a complaint about the yacht club yard, okay? Johnsburg just approved a development behind Angelo's to put 5 housing units on 1 acre, okay? You're talking about a handful of boats on just less than 1 acre. That's what the complaint is. The yacht club is in a secluded, idyllic area, and it's a pleasure to see the sailboats out on the bay. There's no motorboats, there's no drinking, there's no carousing. It's an asset to our neighborhood. It's an asset to Johnsburg. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
Patricia Smarto.
Patricia Smarto, 25400 West Cedar Crest Lane in Lake Villa. So I'm here tonight really for 2 reasons. First, I sailed as a late teen, early 20s on Lake Michigan, did it for quite a few years, and then I made the foolish mistake of marrying someone that vomits on sailboats. So I give up my life as a sailor and go back to embracing my life as a power boater on the Channel Lakes. I live on Columbia Bay, which is very busy, as we all know. And I, last year, decided to take a sailing class. Finally got to the point where I thought, I can boat for myself. I don't have to have my husband, so I'll take the class. I took the adult class. It was fantastic. Met some wonderful people who'd never sailed before and kind of polished my skills. I intend to take some more classes to get better at it this coming summer. The other thing that I do is I sell waterfront real estate. And one of the things that I tell people who are new to the chain is about the Pistachio Yacht Club and the sailing school. I talk about the fact that your kids can go and be in a day camp and learn about sailing, learn about STEM, and people get excited. It definitely puts Johnsburg on the map. and I would really hate to see Johnsburg and the chain as a whole lose this institution. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Plant?
Will Plant, 827 Woodhill Court, Lake Villa. I'm not a member of PYC. I'm a member of Lake Geneva Yacht Club. My daughter did go through the sailing school. It's awesome. You've heard that. The main thing I want to talk about just with the yacht club is really what an institution it is here. If you're not a sailor, you might not know that, but you know, they used to host a blue chip regatta. There's people come from Akachi, Wonder Lake, Long Lake, you know, pretty much Lake Nagawicca, all the lakes around here. If you're a sailor in Wisconsin, in Illinois, you know, the State Yacht Club. The blue chip drew, I mean, Buddy Melgis has sailed here, John Coleus, you know, American Cup level skippers have sailed at the State Yacht Club. And my daughter did the Mackinac race with me a couple of years ago, so that was pretty awesome. But even up there, like, you know, I'm bragging about her and we're talking to people and people are like, oh, Pistachey, yeah, my dad raced there. Like, and I'm 50. And it's like, you know, got people's dads sailing there. So the yacht club is definitely an institution for Johnsburg. And as far as sailors go, like, it's put Johnsburg on the map for them. So just like you to take that into account.
Mary Ross? Can we have your address first, Mary?
I live at 290 Cardiff Drive, Algonquin.
290.
Cardiff Drive. Good evening. My name is Mary Ross. I'm a volunteer and future instructor of the sailing school. I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship over the last few years to be able to participate in this great program. My father, aunt, and uncle have spent many years racing every weekend at the yacht club. I've watched my aunt and uncle pour their heart and soul into helping mold the school into the program it is today. Since the death of my father, sailing has been an important outlet for me. It has brought me a lot of peace and joy during a very hard time in my life. Sailing has led me to develop decision-making, responsibility, and taught me to leave my comfort zone. It has allowed me to learn great leadership skills and give back to the community. Sailing has led me to feel accomplished every summer, knowing I didn't sit on my phone each day. Every summer, I look forward to teaching and learning to sail. I'm looking forward to being involved in teaching adaptive sailing and being able to pass that same joy on to kids. As an instructor, it'll allow me to have a job every summer building a community of truly amazing people, as you've seen today. And building the next generation by instilling the skills I've learned to new prospective sailors. Sailing has made a great impact in my life, and it is a skill that I would someday like to pass on to my own children. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to just recap a few things that we did at our last meeting, and we told everybody here, nobody on this board wants to see the yacht club or the sailing school go, okay? Nobody's trying to take it over. Nobody's trying to get rid of it. Everybody up here has said that, okay? So how that rumor got started is a rumor, okay? That we want to close the yacht club or the sailing school, okay? I probably had 50 emails this past week, okay? I responded to all of them the same way. I think there's some misrepresentation going on, and I'll just read to you what I responded with. And the reason that this issue all came is 11 years ago or 15 years ago, we had a problem with that back lot being a junkyard. It was cleaned up, and this spring it was a junkyard again. Otherwise, it would not even be an issue, okay? So I just want to respond to what I've responded to all these folks. Thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts regarding the Pistachey Yacht Club and Community Sailing School. In reading your email, it appears that the situation has been misrepresented to you. The village has always been and continues to be supportive of both Pistachey Yacht Club and the Community Sailing School. Last spring, we received complaints regarding the use of the back lot for storage of junk and privately owned boats, many of which were dilapidated and abandoned rendering the property unsightly and in violation of village ordinances. This is not the first time it has to step in to help remove junk from the property. We had to do so in the past. Since the new concerns were received last spring, the village has made several attempts in good faith to work with the yacht club to clean up the property and amicably resolve the matter. But representatives of the yacht club have expressed an unwillingness to match those efforts. Although those representatives have acknowledged that junk and abandoned boats were being stored on the property, and they have made efforts to clean up the property, they maintain that they are allowed to rent the property for private boat storage based upon a variance granted by county in 1970. We have reviewed the documents related to the 1970 variance and disagree with their position. The village has a responsibility to enforce ordinance and protect all of its residents from being adversely impacted by the misuse of property. We have continued to express our willingness to work with the club, but have not received any interest from members of the club to do so. We still remain hopeful that an amicable solution will be reached. Thank you for sharing your thoughts regarding this matter. So, we started in April of last year to work with the resolution, and you know, it comes to the last hour all the time, and we want to, you know, I would get stuff from the yacht club organization when we would have a deadline a month or 3 weeks away. On a Friday afternoon, the deadline Sunday, we'd get a line email from them. Ed, we need to know today what's going to happen, and you know, that's not reasonable. We give them time, they don't want to give us time. So we've gone back and forth several times. I've spent 5 hours alone this week with different people trying to work something out. Trustee Hagan will agree to that. Some of your other members are in the audience if they want to be recognized. And we have put together something that we're trying to be reasonable with working with the yacht club. So it's like a bad divorce. There's, you know, 3 sides to every story, his, hers, and the truth, okay? So I'm just telling you that there's nobody on this board that doesn't want the yacht club there, doesn't want the sailing school there. It's just got to be negotiated, and everybody is trying to do that at this point, I believe. Okay? So.
Who complained? Don't you think we should be allowed to know that?
No.
How come they weren't here?
Pardon me?
Everybody got to speak. Why didn't the complainants come and speak? Where are they?
We go through this all the time, sir, where people complain about a neighbor or somebody, and we always keep them anonymous, okay? Because we're not here to have neighbors fight with neighbors. People fight with people. We don't do it. If they want to come and talk, they're welcome to come and talk, just like we're listening to you folks, okay? So we are like that. Laura?
So, I mean, we filed a Freedom of Information request asking for documentation of the complaints, and I understand the need to keep people anonymous, but we did not get a listing of anonymous complaints from the village. We got one complaint from an anonymous party, and one and several are different.
That one complaint was a false complaint because the verbiage in your complaint stated...
The verbiage in my complaint?
In the complaint that we filed, the Freedom of Information Act, the complaint filed with the village stated falsely that the sailing school was renting backlot space. That was the complaint. I have the text here if you want me to read it.
No, we don't want to read it, but if you're claiming that, we will definitely look into it, Tom. I mean, if you're accusing us of wrongdoing, we'll definitely look into it.
No, I'm not accusing you. I'm talking about the complaint, Ed. I said earlier, you've always supported the school and the yacht club.
We have.
Okay, but what we're talking about is a complaint. The complaint was a false complaint. That's the only complaint that we know of. The sailing school does not rent space at the yacht club. For the back lot or for anything. The sailing school is a nonprofit organization, and it rents space from the yacht club.
So I'm getting confused. You're saying that PYC or the sailing school does not rent space out on the back lot?
The sailing school does not. The complaint said verbatim, and I have it here, that the sailing school is renting boat storage and trailer storage space
Did you
in the
not say
back
that?
lot. It is a false statement.
Did you not say that to us
What?
when this all started? That you were renting a very subsidized rate to your members
No, we
to store
charge-
boats there?
I'll answer that.
Yeah.
Our members pay a fee to use the back lot.
But it's highly subsidized, right? Did you share that amount with us?
I will share the amount with you. It is one of the fees that they pay. It's, I think it's, and you can look it up on our website, so I think it's $125.
That's kind of what I remember you saying.
But that's, and as I said, that is one of the many fees they pay to be part of the club. So I'm just.
But that's a
I hope I'm
highly
answering your question.
subsidized rate.
That's in addition to their membership fee.
Which is how much?
For social.
$700. For social, $150.
150 plus 125 is a pretty good deal.
And $500.
But again,
Social
I
members,
don't
I'm
think-
sorry, social members cannot, they're not renting a backlot space. It's only our boating members
they
or
can.
regular members.
They can.
Oh, they
But a
can?
social member can sail a dinghy.
Oh, the dinghies, right, the dinghies.
Okay.
The dinghies are new, the dinghies are new. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Renting out
Okay, we're
spots.
done with
Providing a
public comment.
service.
We're done with public comment. Thank you. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the item on this agenda.
I'll motion. I'll second. Mike was first.
Motion by trustee Falk and second by trustee Hagan. Discussion on the motion. Anything that anybody wants pulled? Mike?
Nope.
Greg?
No.
No? Okay. Pardon me?
I'm good with that.
Okay. With there being none, trustee Morris?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Klumstein?
Aye.
Trustee Foreman?
Aye.
And trustee Falk?
Aye.
Motion carried. I'm going to just update the board and the folks here. What has happened, Redwood is not moving forward right now because of cost, okay, construction costs, so we won't be bonding the water tower because we were waiting for that to be a sure thing before we move forward. We have secured the right-of-way from the water tower for the water lines, and we will continue to move forward with that. Okay? Any questions on that?
Are we pursuing any engineering still?
We're holding off where we are. We're going to use what we have. Eventually, that tower's going to go there. It's been a long-term plan of the village.
Yeah, and we're again, generally good about getting ahead of that and having that information ready, so I just wanted, how far did we get?
We're probably about 60%.
Okay.
I talked to Tim today, and he said we're at a good point, for like a good holding point to put it on the shelf and
This
talk
point.
about it and move forward.
Okay? And that's why we held off until they closed on the property. That was all. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion and a second. Move to approve ordinance 23, 24, 29, amending section 6, non-conforming buildings and uses by adding section 6.10, burden of proof, section 7.1, accessory buildings and structures by adding 7.1-11, limited personal storage, and section 20, violations penalty of the Johnsburg zoning ordinance. Can I have a motion?
I will make a motion, but I would like to discuss.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Foreman. Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by trustee Hagan. Okay, discussion on the motion.
So I would just like to make this clear that this ordinance goes well beyond just the yacht club. This is an ordinance that is applied across the board here in the village. What I am concerned about and what I do not want to have happen is to put the yacht club at a financial burden as a result of this passage. So I really would like
some kind of solution, resolution to this. And I don't know if we want to put it language in that, you know, the yacht club perhaps could be exempt until we solve this. That's just how I feel right now about going forward with this. First, I also want to applaud all the young people that spoke here tonight. The passion is palpable. What President Hederman said, nobody up here wants to harm this sailing school or the yacht club. We know what the tradition is. Our kids have attended the school there. This ordinance goes beyond just you, though. And what I'm hearing, and we have been having this conversation for 6 months, and I still haven't heard what number of boats do you deem, you know, how many should be there? I want to also applaud you. I went by there today. It looks much better than it did 6 months ago. So again, and the third thing I want to point out is there's still disinformation at your end. The number of emails that I fielded this week, I think everybody on the board did. I don't think you're being quite truthful with your membership. We did not start this litigation, so let us just try to solve this. Let us try to solve this. This is my feeling.
It should be solved, thank you.
Never mind, it's board discussion, Holly, okay?
I was just thanking her.
Good.
All right, so I am hugely concerned with this entirety of this ordinance because the number of unintended consequences of this, I think, could be very difficult for us to get through, right? And I sent an email to Claudette this week asking for this, so I'm glad we're having this discussion. But I understand that our objective is to try and reduce our litigation fees for instances where we have complaints that we need to go to court to try and work on. But essentially what it seems like we're doing is we're passing, by changing the burden of proof from village to the resident or business owner, whatever, stakeholder. And we're passing this cost on to these people, right?
What do you mean?
So this was my example. And we've dealt with this, especially you guys that have been here for a while, we've dealt with these homes on the river that are extremely unique. And I will say that my own home is in the same situation. What I'm afraid is going to happen is if we pass this and we say that we're talking about anonymous complaints, and I understand the reason that we keep them anonymous, but if someone were to complain about my property, my individual property, that has been there since the 1880s, right? And when we bought it 7 years ago from the original family. So that property's been built up over the course of 130 years. I have a lot of non-conforming buildings on my property. I have buildings that are too close to the property line. I have buildings that are too close to each other, too close to my neighbors. What is going to stop somebody, and this goes for all the houses on the river and even the newer neighborhoods where ordinances were in place at the time that they did whatever construction, but then the ordinance was changed. What's going to stop these people from putting in an anonymous complaint? The village then goes to that homeowner or whatever and says, you need to prove to us that you did this properly. It was properly permitted, it was properly put in the paper, properly sent letters to your neighbors. And if you can't, A, you're going to get charged now $200 a day. You're going to have the fees for litigation. And what's the resolution? There's no way. I mean, when I bought my house, I had my plat survey looked like it was written on a napkin. I don't have the paperwork to back up anything that's been done. And I mean, and God bless Louis Pitson when he did it, but he stamped the buildings when he put them in. I have buildings from 1922. How am I going to prove that that was done properly? So, and this, again, this applies to all those houses on the river that have garages that are on the property line. it's going to apply to people that have landscaping that's possibly on the property line. I mean, right, where does this end, and how are those people going to be able to defend themselves at their own cost against these possible complaints, anonymous complaints that they don't know where they're coming from?
Can you give me an example of where that has happened? Where these neighbors have complained about?
This is one of them right here.
Yeah, well, this is false. I'm sorry, it's poor discussion, okay? It's, you know.
This was driven by an anonymous complaint, right? And I look at the situations that we reference in this memo, right? The Nugent and Patrick violations are those, so that is the one on McCollum Lake Road?
One is on McCollum Lake Road, and the other one is on the corner of where Pitson's Auto Parts, or Auto Repair was, across from Bill Hewitt's, in Bill Hewitt's building across from the...
But I mean, there have been others too, where specifically it was the gentleman with the Comcast truck in his driveway. That was a complaint that was received. We went to court and we lost that one. But we as a village seem to be, I think we seem to be putting in far too many regulations. I feel like our oversight is just taken into overdrive lately, that we're putting out all these really detailed regulations on our residents that don't seem to be necessary. But this is just another step in making individuals at their own cost try to not be attacked by the village. So,
well, I think the heart of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, the heart of this ordinance is to address the people that blatantly, we'll give them notice that they're in violation. They will drag their feet for 30 days. They'll fix something at the 11th hour. They'll get a $25 fine, and the cycle repeats. That was the spirit of this ordinance.
And I'm not saying in principle that the idea is bad. Like this gentleman with the car at his neighbor's house, right? That's something that needs to be dealt with. But I see how this ordinance can work in that situation, but again, I'm afraid that it's also going to bring us these unintended consequences of a neighbor gets upset at his neighbor and can cause all sorts of problems for him.
Is there a caveat that you could, what do you think?
Well, let me interject that.
Yeah, and I really, Mike, would like to get some information from you.
There's a debate here, or question, or inquiry about the burden of demonstrating that a use or a structure is a legal non-conforming use. Illinois case law already provides, without us doing anything, that it's the owner's burden to demonstrate that. So I suppose maybe you could find someone to argue the contrary, but it wouldn't be objectively true. And that is, Illinois case law expressly provides that is the property owner's burden, whether we do anything about it or not. Now, the idea was to incorporate this into the ordinance so that when the village staff is challenged, as they are frequently, with novel zoning theories, that when someone says, I want to see it in the ordinance, it's here. The staff could, in each instance, call my office and request case law to that end, but this is an attempt to memorialize that expectation and what's already in place. So not only do I think that, I shouldn't say think, I know, but that's what Illinois law provides, and I think has been for some time. This is not a new concept. But two, speaking with respect to the municipalities my firm serves, that's the expectation of those municipalities. So I think that if you were to go to our clients, Algonquin, Bull Valley, Carpentersville, Harvard, Hebron, Lake in the Hills, Kirkland, Island Lake, Ringwood, I think the expectation would be, and even those municipalities where I've served as special counsel, where, in the case of Eastondy or Galesburg or Geneseo, the expectation in each of those municipalities is that if there's an allegation that one is not in compliance with an ordinance, you're not in compliance with a village ordinance or a city requirement, that the expectation is that the explanation is coming from that property owner as to why the violation is appropriate. Not for the village to have to explain why that person is potentially exempt. So, when one of our police officers gives a ticket for someone for speeding, presumably there's a violation of the law. The police then don't go through potential situations in which the person would theoretically be exempt from that speeding allegation. So I think with respect to, if you were to speak with municipalities who we don't represent outside of that group, or who we haven't served as special counsels, I think that what you'd find is, if you were to take a survey, each municipality says, when there's a situation when there's apparently a violation of an ordinance, it's up to that person to explain why he or she believes they're not subject to that ordinance. And I think that's reasonable, and I think that's kind of natural. It also happens to dovetail with Illinois case law. So, if someone were to say, well, Michael, that's not what the Illinois cases provide, I'd challenge them to provide that. I'm not looking for someone to take up this bet. It would be a waste of time and resources, but I suspect that I could probably find 30 cases to that end, to that point.
How about municipalities of that list? How many of these municipalities have?
But the municipalities are subject to that case law. So my point is that not only is that the expectation with each of the municipalities we work with, and I think that's expected, but two, I think Illinois case law is replete for decades. That's the obligation. If there's a violation of an ordinance that calls into question the structure of use, that's the owner's obligation to provide an explanation. So now, two, in the event that, and what I don't have experience and what I can't speak to is a situation in which one homeowner brings suit against another homeowner saying, and I think it's obvious why this isn't brought in court, I moved into the neighborhood, I have a dispute with, my name is McCoy, I'm upset with Hatfield next door, I moved into the neighborhood, I find myself very upset with the location of your house. I don't think it's appropriate. All my house has been here since the 1880s. Yeah. Nonetheless, I think I'm going to bring that to court and see what happens. And this isn't a very legal analysis, but good luck with that. I don't think that would fly. So the thought is that not only do I think that this incorporates what the law is, and I think that any competent attorney would agree with that. I think that's something we can all agree on.
But that's what it says in the text.
Right.
Right? It says that if my neighbor got upset with me and put in a complaint, that I would have to prove that it was okay for that building to go there. I understand it doesn't really make sense.
No. So what I'm saying is, what the text says is what Illinois case law provides. Okay. I'm not providing a basis for your neighbor, because first of all, I guess I've been doing this for 30 years. My firm handles a lot of cases. I just haven't had an experience in which one homeowner has the temerity, audacity, I'm looking for better vocabulary to express myself. The temerity or the audacity to say, I moved into a neighborhood. I don't like where my neighbor's house is situated.
But isn't that exactly what's happening with QIC?
No, it's not at all.
No. We had an anonymous complaint.
And then two.
And that place has been there.
This predates anything. And no, I wasn't aware of an anonymous complaint until the context of this litigation. And what this partly goes back into is what we discussed last summer. And that's what I brought to you to say, listen, I would like the village board to take into account what's been going on. And that is with respect to the litigation in which meritless defenses are being brought up. I'm speaking about past litigation, so to be clear. Meritless litigation that goes on based on various defenses, including one of the defendants who claimed that they had the right to do something. Oh yeah, I've got it. Okay, well, can you bring it? We had litigation some time ago that went on. It extended the litigation. Do I think this helps memorialize this and puts this expectation in writing to say that's your obligation to demonstrate? Do I think this will memorialize what the village's expectations are consistent with Illinois law? Yes. And I'm sure there's various hypotheticals one can come up with. It's just that I think it's difficult for me to believe that situations like that would arise where someone moves into a neighborhood and says, I am uncomfortable with where you have your foundation. Well, you just came here, but you moved next to it. So, Josh, I don't, because I haven't had any experience with that happening, and I think we can all imagine the rationale why it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. But it could.
I suppose anything could happen, theoretically. Yes.
And if it does, then it's up to the individual to prove. So, and
consistent. Well, let me finish. There's a question there. Consistent with the Illinois case law on this. And here's the thing. I don't think this is something like, well, there's a different case out there, or there's a case from, Southern Illinois that's different. No, this is pretty clear that it is the property owner's burden. There's no reasonable debate about that.
To me, this feels like guilty until you can prove you're innocent.
No.
How does it? I don't.
Because
explain that.
no, let me explain. Because what Illinois law says is that if you're violating a village ordinance,
which again, I will throw myself on this. I am. My property that I own is violating a village ordinance in multiple ways.
Okay. And how many times has it? I'm sorry?
What's your address?
And the question I got, so Josh, in that event, how long have you been at your house?
I've been there 7 years, and the family before it owned for 120.
Okay. And we can look this up at the courthouse, but I try to be practical. I went to a city law school. I didn't go to the University of Chicago Law School. And in the 120 years that your house has been there, that you're maintaining that it is non-conforming, and we can look this up at the courthouse. I've been able to find cases from the 1920s, the early 1900s. How many suits have there been challenging the location of your building?
There have been, again, I don't know that. I've only been there 7 years. But
we
as
can
far
look
as
it
I
up.
know,
We can search it.
But, and that's the other thing is...
Josh, you're giving Sarah a heart attack in the back row.
But requiring proper notice is the same thing. How would I even attempt to prove that when he built that building in 1922, that he gave proper notice? Well, and again, it's all hypothetical, but I think the difference is... But this text is going into our ordinances, and we're not going to be here forever. So when the next guys come in, and girls and whomever comes in, they are going to read the text and work by the text.
Right, so the text is, so to be clear, the text is consistent with Illinois law. If you were to give me until noontime tomorrow, I could probably find 40 cases on that to that point. Okay. That's not debatable. But I think that, one, And then two, again, I try to look at this very practically. What this is based on is my experience that I related to you with respect to defendants, and I'm speaking with respect to the past litigation, offering up various explanations. And I think two, yes, this is for the staff in part, when someone demands, and I don't think, this isn't speculative, this happens, when someone is very demanding of the zoning, the staff here at the village, show me where that is in the ordinance. You know, the staff doesn't have Westlaw. They can't do electronic research to pull up cases. I pay for a service, I punch in that terminology, 40 cases come up. The village doesn't have that.
But neither does the individual that's on the other side of that.
Right, so, but here's my point is that, okay, but that individual who, how often, again, the question I've got is, how often has an individual, even with your admission here, your confession, and the thing is, and Josh, the reason you're so comfortable saying that is because I think, I don't have ESP, there is zero likelihood of anyone challenging that.
And that is, again, these are unique situations, but that's because my neighbor is also very close to the property line too, and that's how we all are down there.
It's not a unique situation because in the 30 years that I've been working, and I work a lot in real estate, I'm aware of other cases in my office. So I mean, the two examples here is with respect to your residents, with respect to your confession here tonight about it being non-conforming for 120 years, just theoretically, for 120 years.
We don't need
only 100, only 102.
Okay, 102. The 30 years that I've been practicing, with all the cases I've seen, witnessed in court, and I suspect, no disrespect to the age of the village officials here, but in the 200 years of people on this board having lived in the village, practically speaking, the question I've got is, when has an owner gone to a neighbor and said, I moved in next to your house, I do not like where that foundation's at. I'm going to sue you. And you know, Trustee Foreman kind of giggled at me. It happens from time to time. But I think her giggling was at the prospect of that happening. So yes, you know, there are law schools that would go into the hypothetical of anything could occur. I understand that. It's just that what I'm looking at is more from my empirical experience rather than the theoretical of something that hasn't occurred. So sitting here today, I can't think of a situation that, leaving aside what I've participated in, but like sitting in the courtroom, sometimes for hours, listening, that I haven't seen an owner sue another owner of a building, two neighbors, that I don't like where your house was. And it's because it doesn't pass the common sense test. So when they go up before the judge, who has this overwhelming docket, 40 cases before him or her, and says, okay, what are we here on today? I moved into next to Trustee Hagan's house. I do not like its location, sir. Okay, let's talk about you. So you moved into this condition. Yes. That doesn't pass the common sense test. So what I'm trying to address is what the village has experienced, particularly over the last year, where there does seem to be a cavalier attitude with past defendants as to, I'll gamble, I'll drag this out, I'll make up excuses about paperwork, and gamble. And, you know, if I lose the case, I'll write a check. And so this kind of goes back to the discussion we had last summer, that what I had to report to the board and what I expressed was that besides the fines that were imposed, because that wasn't a sufficient deterrent, we had to go out and take additional measures to make sure that didn't occur. You know, with respect to, Mr. Curry made an allusion to that during the presentation, his presentation tonight, in which because the gentleman in question continued to maintain a dirt ramp, I don't know what you call it, a dirt bridge, mud bridge, mud ramp, whatever it is, yes. Trustee Clemstein giggling at me again. Whatever that situation was that we had to go out, because the gentleman was like, I'll just write a check. Let's go with it. Let's roll the dice. And the defenses that were offered in that case were ludicrous. You know, one of the defenses was that how can the village of Johnsburg have a road within it called McCullen Lake? That's physically impossible. It's there. So this is based on my experience, our experience in the courtroom, that if the village wishes to move to a situation in which the ordinance has more of a deterrent effect with respect to their fine, this is what I'm encouraging to do, as I discussed last summer. I think, too, that with respect to the principle of whether the village has to explain that if a property owner is in violation, it's up to the village to explain why the violation is acceptable. I don't think that's the expectation among our municipalities, or even, you know, I worked as special counsel for the County of McHenry. I think that if you were to go to their planning and zoning department, I don't think they would take the approach that once we find that an individual is in violation of a zoning ordinance or, say, a health code, we don't bring it to their attention. It's up to us to explain why they're exempt and they don't have a violation. I just don't think that's the expectation of municipalities or counties in the experience I've had.
I have more, if I want to keep going.
Yeah,
What,
sure.
I mean, so, again, I understand that it hasn't necessarily happened. And again, my individual case might be an extreme example, but we all know that there's a lot of non-conforming uses and non-conforming structures within the village. And, you know, that's part of the unique thing about this village, is that it's kind of a smorgasbord of pieces put together over a course of a long time, but that has created these situations.
Right.
And to say that we're going to put this ordinance in, and the text of this ordinance is very specific, but we're only going to follow the spirit of it, sitting here today is pretty easy to do. But then when it comes down to it, where there's a situation that we're actually facing that you may not have seen in your experience, we have this text that is going to be very burdensome on our residents.
Okay, so the question would be, forgive me for this question, how long has the village been, going back to Sunnyside, how long has it been established?
It's a 30.
56, 1956.
Well, 56 was the village of Sunnyside.
And then was it-
Johnsburg was 19,
So
the
the
merger
question
was
would be-
1991.
Okay, so going back to 1956, how many examples, and there's some people who have a little bit of experience on this board, how many situations in which a neighbor, since 1956, has sued the neighboring homeowner to say, your home is not conforming?
But it doesn't have to be a neighbor. It can be somebody from the village, Randy, driving around, finding something, but then it's the onus of the property owner to take it from there. Whereas the village...
If the property owner is maintaining that he or she has a variance or conditional use, say, the reason I'm not in violation is because of the following, that's the explanation. And again, you can come up with theoretical scenarios, but I think what's being borne out is, in the decades that this situation has occurred, all these properties that you allude to about non-conforming, it just hasn't occurred.
But it could.
Theoretically, anything could happen, yes.
Because we're not grandfathering anything in here either. This is, it doesn't matter if we wrote an ordinance.
No, there's a different section about legal non-conforming uses. Very specific. Here's the circumstances, here's, and again, consistent with Illinois law. So I think in this instance, this simply, I shouldn't say parallels, it incorporates Illinois law that says that is the property, the burden of the property owner.
Well, and again, I own some other properties in town, and I know that if something were to come up, I would have a very difficult time improving.
Okay.
Again, and that's my
And if I could
personal
ask,
example.
if I could ask, is
I'm
another...
not giving any more addresses. so.
No. I don't want to make anybody in the audience nervous.
We got him.
I don't want any spouses nervous, but, so...
But again, I'm just giving myself an example in this situation, but it's not just me. It is effectively, I don't want to say everybody, but a whole lot of the village residents have something that could result in this being a problem.
But this has been
And then it's
applicable.
up to them to take that on as an individual.
But this has been applicable, so whether we know it or not, I don't know if people are conscientious of this, but for decades, that has been the property owner's burden. And it's because of, I think in part, it's difficult to pass a test in front of a judge to say, I moved into a neighborhood, and I mean, this is what I'm trying to bear in mind is, I moved into a neighborhood, bought a house, yeah, I was there before I bought it, I don't like it. I don't like the house next to me. And when the judge asks, well, was it there when you moved in? Yeah. And now you're seeking to move the house or take down part of the
But
house.
that's an extreme example. Let's say a shed.
boat lot was there.
Oh, come on.
Let's say
And that's what I'm talking about past litigation. I'm not talking about the litigation before the
Right, but I'm saying,
That was brought
in
back.
the instance of some of the properties that are older, right, and there's a shed that's now too close to a property line, and it could be an ordinance that we change.
Two sheds now.
Yeah. Right. So what's their recourse?
Same situation, so let's take that. And I think a judge would ask, so you moved in next to a lot with a shed, or two sheds?
Two sheds.
Okay. I'm not going to ask why that's a specific example, trustee Plumstein. But you don't like the sheds, and now you moved in next to it, and now you want to get rid of them, is that right? I concur it's theoretically possible, it just, I don't think it happens.
See, but
I understand.
we're saying that we're doing something, and then we're saying, in addition to that,
No, but what
we
I'm
may
saying
not
is-
actually follow through
But
with it.
this has been in place for decades. in case
But
law.
not the burden being on the homeowner.
No, it is. I want to be clear.
From the get-go, it is the burden of the homeowner to prove that what they did was properly whatever.
Yes. So to be clear, I'm sorry if I wasn't.
So then what are we changing?
Right. You're putting this in the ordinance to set forth the expectation of the village to, that when past defendants demand, show me where this is in your ordinance, the village can show it. And 3, each time that someone is demanding of the village staff, show me where this is, they don't have to call my office and say, Michael, I need you to research this, I need you to send this over. It's encapsulated right here.
See, that's not how, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but that's not how I read this. This is,
I understand.
I mean, what
Why do you read
changes
it?
are we making, Josh?
if we're switching the burden from, because that's what we're doing, right?
No.
Isn't that exactly what it says?
No. The burden under Illinois law to which Illinois municipalities are subject.
It shall be the property owner's burden.
Right.
But I don't think that's a switch, right?
Correct. So
That's
the
what you're
exist-
saying.
Right, for decades.
You're implying it's a switch, and he's saying, no, it's always
The
been.
existing case law says the property owner has that burden. And, you know, I guess the courts could face the same theoretical. So the situation where a house that's been there since the 1880s, the situation with Greg's 2 sheds that I'm not asking further about, that's what the case law is. This simply incorporates and is consistent with that. So there's no shift. Even the property owner is expected, under Illinois law, I shouldn't say expected, required, that if that property owner goes to court and says, I have a legal non-conforming use, the court says under Illinois case law, that's your burden. I'm not talking about whether it's a plaintiff or a defendant. Whoever's asserting that legal non-conforming use has the burden of demonstrating that. It's nothing new, and that's not the village's choice. That's what the case law provides for some time. But I don't think anyone is going to argue at that point.
So then what is with the situations from those two that we talked about?
The two prior ones?
Yes.
Nugent and
Patrick.
Patrick, okay.
No, I think you're misreading the memo.
that's
That
what you-
relates to the fines being too low to be a deterrent, rather than respond to the
They
violation.
paid the fines and then just let
Yeah, just let it go.
But let's talk about this example, and that is, what trustee Curry pointed out was, and this is why the burden's on the property owner, rather than like, we would not have known this, but that property owner somehow tried to demonstrate that the village, I believe that the village of Macomb Lake issued a permit to create the mud bridge. Is that what we're calling it? Is there a better word for it? Trustee Foreman, is there a better word for mud bridge?
Beaver Dam.
Macomb Lake issues a citation, issues a permit to create the mud bridge. That was the allegation. Now, first of all, not the village of Macomb Lake's call. And I don't know if there was confusion over the name of the road, but that's under our jurisdiction. And two, I guess what he could have said was, well, I had permission, show me otherwise. The burden was on him to demonstrate that, and when he came forth with that documentation, and the judge said, but it's not the owner of the road. It's not the highway authority. And so, yes, this is partly and done with the retrospective of what the village has faced in terms of litigation, where again, with respect to the fines, going back to last year, the fines are so low.
And I really,
think it
fines, I
encourages.
think, need to be looked at, right?
I think it encourages owners with meritless defenses, such as respectfully Mr. Patrick and Mr. Nugent, to roll the dice, and with a shrug of the shoulders, if I lose, I'll write a check. Which was the case.
So, Michael, if you're saying that it's already there, right?
Correct.
And Josh is saying that
So then
the
what's
fines,
changing? What's
the
changing, I
fines
suppose?
need, but you just said the fines need to be looked at, right? That's basically what we're changing.
Well, with the exception of Commissioner Calhoun made some suggestions with respect to storage. He wanted an exception for non-highway vehicles. He suggested language about trailers and trailers not being emptied. I'm not being as eloquent, but I think that was the gist.
But that's still consistent with what we already have.
Correct. Correct.
So there is a section of burden of proof in our ordinance today.
No, that's why I'm suggesting you have this.
Okay.
But even without that section or ordinance, if the question is still at this point, Michael, who has the, if we put post-it notes over this in the code, and we can't see it, or the staff isn't aware that it's in there, and answering the question if somebody is demanding to see this, before this is adopted, who has the burden of proof? If you're a landowner and you're maintaining that you can use your property in violation of village ordinances, who has the burden of proof today, before we pass this? The owner. This incorporates that. It also avoids a situation in which, and again, a lot of defenses are raised, some a lot without merit, but what we've seen in the past is that this incorporates it. When someone says, I want to see it, here it is. There's not a call to my office to say, Michael, Kevin, Jennifer, please do some research and get back because the property owner has a question about this. This incorporates what's already the case with respect to Illinois law, but it avoids the village having to call my office for cases to demonstrate that. And two,
Is it because the homeowner has to do it? The homeowner would have to take that step.
right. But, what I maintain is respectfully that my 30 years, however many years totally that the members on this board have lived in the community, your house going back to the 1880s, that just hasn't arisen. And I understand the theoretical possibilities. I took theology, grade school, high school, college, a lot. And I understand the concept of the theoretical, but what I'm trying to demonstrate is this is addressing what we're facing. And that is, in the past, defendant after defendant, particularly with respect to the lower fees, saying, I'm going to roll the dice, I'm going to offer defenses that, I'll be charitable, don't have much in the way of merit, and I'll write the check. And I don't think that's the idea. The idea is not, this isn't supposed to be a situation where there's a profit and loss statement. The idea is that I think the village doesn't want this situation. And people can disagree with respect to Mr. Nugent, but the thing is, the problem with Mr. Nugent was the ditch, the right-of-way that was supposed to drain water that he put the mud bridge in, our ordinances said no. And I think that the village, particularly the staff, as they're rolling their eyes at me, would have preferred much more strongly that it hadn't occurred. And what I maintain is the question I've gotten, I don't know, I don't have ESP with respect to what Mr. Patrick was thinking or what Mr. Nugent was thinking, but the question I've got is, given that you have the ability to change the fine, if the fine were higher, would Mr. Nugent have created a mud bridge blocking a drainage ditch, driving onto our road, over the mud bridge, and doing that year after year? And I mean, this went over the course of him promised the hand over the heart. I promised not to do it again. And I think he did it again because it was a low fine. It was a very cavalier attitude. It was a shrug of the shoulders.
I'm sorry, one more question. Why are we not just looking at the fine then instead of shifting this? Because again, it is a shift.
Yeah.
It is a shift from our current policy where this first comes to the village and the village needs to pursue it as the first piece of...
Well, no, I don't know that this is a shift, because what I would maintain is this reflects. So in one document, if one were to look at our zoning ordinance and say, I want to know what the expectations are of me, what are my obligations, what rights do I have, here it is in one document. There it is. The village staff, which is not equipped with Westlaw, despite their background, they pick up a lot of this stuff with respect to the prosecutions, but this precludes a call to my office to say, Michael, there's a question about this. Here it is. So looking to the zoning ordinance, one can see the expectation, which I think is consistent with 12 other municipalities that we serve as village or city attorney. The cities that I've worked with as special counsel, Galesburg, Geneseo, McHenry County. Do I think that if you were to put this to them, they would agree that, yeah, the burden's on the property owner. If someone's using their property in violation, and this is already a different situation, using property in violation, why would we have to explain why that property owner wouldn't have to comply with the ordinance, and we do the archival research?
In some cases, I see that.
Yeah.
Right? But, again, I just feel like we're opening ourselves up to a lot of potential issues. So, I'm sorry, Greg.
No. Well, thank you. And Michael, just a couple questions. I would say I do a lot of real estate too, but question on burden of proof. I agree with you. It is in state law. Only question I would have on this is that, given what's been happening in the last few years with things changing within the state, would this ever contradict something that the state law would say? That we wouldn't update this ordinance fast enough that that something else the state would say, this is going to change. I doubt this would have a burden of proof would change from the homeowner proving that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, so-
anything would change, and now we're against that, and we'd be opening ourselves up to other litigation from a property owner or something else.
Well, no, it wouldn't open us up to litigation. It's just that, say for example, the Supreme Court changes their mind next year.
Yep.
And the risk that I face is if the village doesn't change this, I mean, in that situation, I wouldn't want to embarrass myself or the village by saying, yes, there's a Supreme Court case that provides the opposite of the village ordinance. Right. And we're hoping to win. What do you say, Judge? Who do you think wins here?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a challenge. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we bring before you, the policy effective January 1st regarding the Paid Leave Act, We're always in pursuit of trying to keep up with the legislation. And then two, when the Supreme Court changed their minds about conditional uses, there was an impression before 2008 that was purely discretionary. And, the former chairman here said, zoning board, the great thing about a conditional use is it's totally discretionary. That wasn't the case. And so, we brought that to the board's attention, we tried to address it. And yes, so I think that a year from now, if the Supreme Court says there's a new sea change, we're going to overturn decades of law, I think the idea would be, one, either change this, or two, you're certainly not going to assert that in a courtroom where someone says there's a Supreme Court case on this.
Right.
So I don't think we'd be sued over it.
Sure.
It's just that it'd be ineffective. Right. I'm going to bring suit against an old ordinance that no one's asserting against me, but I want my attorney to be busy.
Right.
No.
Another question too, obviously, everybody else, I appreciate everybody's comments in the audience today, thank you for coming out, but I have AT&T service, so anybody else had that today, had experience life-changing events that you can get your phone. So how long does the village have for retention policies of holding, permits, everything else too? Because I, like Josh, have a fence that I built in 2015 that then we retracted back in 2019 and had a resident of my neighborhood challenging that earlier in the year. So how much do I know it is retained, I have my permit, but let's say I would lose my permit and now somebody would want to challenge that, what would happen in that situation?
So the village isn't allowed to destroy any document until they get permission from the Illinois, I may have this wrong, the Illinois Archivist Commission. That at the time that the village wishes to dispose of records, we have to go ask for permission. And you might say, well, wait a minute, what about my fence permit? One, the question would be, if it's not here, you'd have to try to hit a trifecta. That the municipality doesn't have it, the owner doesn't have it, township assessor's office doesn't have it. And then three, when it comes to a variance or a conditional use, we record them. It's like with respect to a special service area notice, if you ever take a look at that, we've done them 40 times. When that gets recorded, here's the ordinance, here's the list of people this was mailed to, here's a copy of the notice, and anyone can go up to the courthouse and see that, if you got a number, SSA 42, if there's such a thing, that's there. But again, let's just take a look at the fence, but did that person have the temerity or the audacity to go to court and say, I don't like that fence, I'm going to court?
No.
Yeah. And that's what I'm dealing with.
They did in the situation, but no.
We can throw out hypotheticals all night long.
True.
At the end of the day, this is based on Illinois state law, and in good faith, I want to support this ordinance, but circling back to the yacht club, I don't want to...
Are you saying tabling this, Beth? Is that what you want?
I am leaning towards that.
Okay.
In the spirit of reconciling the elephant in the room before we go forward with this. What are your thoughts on that?
Can I do this? And my suggestion would be, I would like it adopted. From our perspective, because of the past litigation. And my thought would be, this isn't on the agenda for tonight. Frankly, I prefer not that the current litigation be discussed, but my suggestion would be rather than table this, because this is trying to address past problems, my suggestion would be that, particularly with respect to the fines, if there's a question about the fine amount, I'll bring it to the village board's attention if this comes into play with that litigation. But this is meant to address what I've seen in the past. I don't know what's going to happen with the present litigation. Okay, that's up for the judge to decide. My thought would be, though, if the concern is with respect to a fine or something like that, that if I introduce the fine in the complaint, I will certainly bring that to your attention and seek guidance from the village board. But given that that's not the main purpose of this, this is meant to cover everybody, and it's meant to address the past meritless litigation. That's why we'd like to have it. And we have litigation besides what's been discussed here tonight, in which many meritless defenses are being raised as we speak.
Everybody understands that this is not anything that is happening because of the yacht club. It goes back way before that, okay, with the Nugent and the Patrick thing, okay? And we sent it back to zoning and planning, I don't know, was it June? I don't know.
It was December.
December. It went to planning and zoning in December. We discussed it back in June.
Why was it in 2 meetings in planning and zoning?
Because
did it take 2 meetings to approve?
Yeah.
Why was that?
They tabled it.
I can try to speak to that. So I think the reason it was tabled was there was there was an expectation by the crowd, very insistent. Why is the commission not familiar with the litigation? The Pistachio litigation. One of the members in the audience even demanded, how can you not know about this when this is in the paper? The chairman just explained, I don't read the paper. And the others, and I think this kind of goes to Ed's point, the others maintained they weren't even aware of the present litigation. And so is this, I guess the question was, is this something that, are we supposed to take into account litigation when it comes to ordinance? And I think that's why they asked to table it, because I think they were under the impression from members of the public that they were charged with knowledge of the litigation, and that's not the commissioner's job. No one should have to read through the reams of documents in that case, and it certainly doesn't come within the purview of a special zoning commission that's supposed to say, is this something that's in the village's interest as a whole or not? It wasn't their fault that they weren't aware of the litigation. It wasn't their fault they didn't go through the pleadings. And I think they kind of felt self-conscious when they shouldn't have. It has nothing to do with whether the ordinance before them is appropriate for the village.
Did you say how many other municipalities have adopted this?
I don't know of any that have.
The exact language, right?
Yes.
It's just that the uniform expectation is that what's before you.
But they have not adopted this.
I don't know. That's something we can look into if you wish.
To me, again, and that was, sorry, another question.
But the other thing is too.
What is our requirement for giving proper notice to surrounding homes? If somebody comes in and requests a variance.
Or zoning, right?
Or zoning change, what is the requirement for giving proper notice?
Benny, you want to go over that?
Benny,
That's
yeah.
pretty standard.
If you would like me to speak.
Yeah.
Yes, so there's obviously no earlier than 30 days and no later than 15 days prior, the sign must be posted from the visible roadway. It has to be published in the paper on that same criteria, no earlier than 30 days, no later than 15. And that's published within 250 feet of the surrounding lots from the end lot line, not the center. Whatever your lot jurisdiction is, buffer 250 feet out and all those surrounding lot owners.
So is it their responsibility to come up with that list of addresses, or do we provide that to them?
So we do assist and provide that list to them. I don't know if that's something that this specific village does, but we pull it off of what the tax records are at the current time to meet that timeline. If it changes, which in the past it has where a home sells, but deeds don't get recorded for 14 days, I don't know who that owner is. I don't know. So they have to certify, return receipt mail, 250 feet. Even if it just touches the corner of a lot line, that whole house gets pulled into that roster. And I do provide that list to them in all my past experiences, because I've been here since 2017.
And if something is missed there, like if a home is missed on that list, is that then still their responsibility to prove that that home was missed, or?
Yeah, so the commission turns in the documents, and when I see the certified USPS mailing, I verify it off the list that I provided them. To the point where I say, look, I know you think you own that lot or that person is a vacant land, you still mail it to the trust, you still mail it to the registered taxing body. We hardly, most of the time we get the green cards back, the return receipt, and that lines up, and I staple it all together and put it right on that roster. But I never would have destroyed any documents since I've been here, so good luck. You know, it's super hard.
What if we did get 50 signatures together?
This is board discussion.
Okay.
Okay? Be here all night. So if the board has any other questions? Josh?
No, I just feel that this is a bit much.
Trustee Morris?
I would probably like to table this thing. I think we need to look into it a little bit more. So I guess I would make a motion to table this.
Wait a minute, we got a motion in a second. Now we would have to amend that motion. So who made the motion? I forget.
It would
Beth
be,
made the motion.
it would actually be a separate motion. I think that, I'm not sure if you want to table it. I think that if you want to continue it to another date, is the motion to continue to another date would supersede the original motion, and that would be passed by 2/3 of the trustees voting on the question.
Beth made the motion, so she could table her other motion, right?
Oh, or another, there could be another motion to table it. So,
Continue or table?
probably continue, because I have a feeling that is the question that you want to submit it to the next board meeting?
Yes.
I see a lot of nodding heads. So you would like me to make a motion?
If that's what everybody feels, we'll make a motion to table it. And then if there's any questions, you can...
Next meeting is...
Next meeting is when?
March 5th.
When do we have to get questions in by to get them answered for the meetings? I sent a question the other day, and I wasn't able to get a response. It came with me.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was the question that I asked? It was what I've said now, but I just want to get some more information if we're going to table this. Then how long before the meeting do I have to ask a question to get an answer before the meeting?
Is it a hard question or is it a question?
I suppose it depends on the answer, doesn't it?
So, here's what I can offer is, if it's a conventional zoning question, like...
It was I asked the question about this hypothetical situation, right?
I mean, the reason it doesn't take any time for me to answer that is, it's been in place for decades that the burden is with the property owner. I don't have to research that. It's just common knowledge. So, and if it's something that takes research, if it's something that takes a poll of municipalities, that might be longer. If it's a more conventional zoning question, we can try to be timely with that, or put the question to me, I can try to answer it. Give me a call, but easy questions, what you're posing. If it's a more difficult question, I assume we need more time.
Anybody else? Greg?
Yeah, the only thing with I'm leaning towards tabling is just the burden of proof. I just want to go into this a little bit more. I'm fine with the fines. I think there needs to be addressed with that. The fine piece needs to be addressed.
And I would like to see, again, I would like to know what other municipalities have, if we can find any, and I would like to see what we're changing. Is it just the fines? Because it doesn't seem like it's just the fines.
Well, no, I mean, it's everything before you.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Yes. But you're telling me that it's the same. We're just putting it down in text, right?
No, this isn't, with respect to the burden of proof, There is no provision that addresses this in the ordinance at this time. This is why I'm suggesting it be added.
But you're saying that we're not actually changing anything, we're just simply adding the text to the ordinance?
Yeah, what I'm saying is we're not changing the Illinois law. Correct.
Seems like a very non-answer. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. So what's the question? I mean,
What
to be clear,
are we
we would
changing
be...
in this ordinance? What is this change that we were trying to make? What is this burden of proof changing from what is existing today?
This would add 2 paragraphs of text to incorporate Illinois law, as it has been for years, into the zoning ordinance.
Why wasn't it there before?
Because I haven't been through the situations I have in the last year with Patrick and Nugent, as well as other pending cases that we have right now, exclusive of the litigation that's of interest to people in the crowd tonight. And would it be helpful to the village?
I'm just wondering why we're writing so many ordinances. We're writing tons and tons and tons of ordinances, it seems like, or we're clarifying, or we're saying that we're changing ordinances simply to update text, but then immediately going and utilizing the ordinances. So I'm just wondering, I feel like I'm not getting any information.
Can you give an example? Like, what do you...
Yeah, the ordinance, the text ordinance, and I don't think it was the second November meeting. We were told that we were updating I'd have to look it up, but we were updating an ordinance just simply to clean up the language.
But that's ongoing, isn't it?
We enacted but I asked the specific question in the meeting, are we updating this ordinance to address a particular situation? And I was told, no, we're just updating the text. But then within 3 weeks, suddenly, we're utilizing that ordinance to go after somebody in the village.
What ordinance are you talking about, I'm sorry?
I would have to look it up.
Okay, we can look into it.
I can let you know. But again, I just feel like we are being told one thing and then other things are happening.
I believe he's referring to the text cleanup on parking in the front yard under Chapter 15 and addressing the vehicles in Chapter 12.
So I don't know. I mean, okay, could you tell me more what's in Chapter 15?
15.9F was talking about if you're parked in your front of your dwelling, it's supposed to be on the improved surface. So you weren't parking in the ditches, you weren't parking in the front yard.
Oh, that was the ditches in the front yards.
Yeah, so it was in there, but we cleaned up the text and I think it was a clarification on, you could be in your front yard, right, the front of the dwelling on the improved surface, not making your own driveway off the road or rut establishment through a culvert. And that's the time I remember Mr. Hagan bringing up the comment about why are we doing this ordinance?
Okay.
It did surround the ComEd vehicle.
No, it was more recent than that.
Okay, there could be more.
Okay.
All right, so Beth, you want to make a motion to table it, correct?
Do you want a motion to continue this to the next board meeting on...
April or March 5th? March 5th. 2 weeks from tonight.
I am comfortable with that, just to continue this conversation.
Well, if there's questions that Josh has, we can get
Yeah.
answers. If anybody else has them, we can get answers. So,
Right, so I make a motion that we continue this conversation and the approval of this ordinance until our next board meeting, which is March
5th.
5th. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by trustee Foreman and seconded by trustee Falk. Any more discussion on that motion? Any more discussion on that motion? Okay, trustee Morse?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Clemstein? Aye. Trustee Foreman?
Aye.
And trustee Falk?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, trustee Falk. New business.
Yeah, so the Community Affairs and Parks Committee has been discussing, I'll pass this down after I explain this to you guys, with several sports programs donating time and money, several individual residents time and money in improving the fields and things like that. And then after our last celebration of the park, there was some concern with our fire. We had the bonfire. So some of the members of my committee thought that there would be a neat idea to put a permanent fire pit at Hiller Park for special use only. And it started out as a legitimate fire pit with bricks and everything else. We had throttled that back down to just being a flush-mounted, so that there's no tripping hazards or anything like that, but an actual designated area for special use for bonfires, for events and things like that. The location has been picked out here. I'll pass this down so you guys can see it. And there is potential in the future to actually build that up if it becomes something that gets highly used, but otherwise it would basically just be a big round circle with stone that is flush with the earth. So there would be no, protruding bricks or anything like that. It would just be a designated area where we can do those type of things without throwing around the baseball fields and softball fields. And instead of having the bricks as well, which could be a tripping hazard, the cost also would be much less just doing it that way. So that's...
You're saying flush or you're...
Flush, no, we're saying flush, which, and if it turned out to be something we use more than, it could potentially have, pavers or
So
bricks.
is flush maybe a tripping hazard more?
Broken leg versus a broken toe.
Well,
broken toe. I don't know. I'm just asking.
On the location, we've looked at several different locations. We chose that one.
It's nice for celebration in the park.
Yeah, that one specifically, but we thought also too, if there's other events there, it can be utilized for other special events. It's not something that anybody can just go and, throw a pile of wood on, but
Do we have to worry about having air intake or anything like that in a hole like that?
I mean, we were burning on top of the softball fields.
Yeah.
So,
But if this is going to be inside,
well, it will be flush, so it'll be like limestone
Oh,
packed
not-
down.
Option one was flush with the grade, so it would be a transition from either walking pad grass into gravel, and then we would always maintain it clean. Option two was, if you wanted the stonework, I want to keep it at a specific height, whatever the board decides.
Yeah, we're open to either one, but the committee decided that
the flat.
the flat one would be better, especially because there's always an option to do two later. So, just
Say what-
something to entertain.
What your committee likes.
Yeah, they like the option one with just the packed stone diameter circle in that specific location, which seemed to be central for any events, out of the way for all sporting fields.
It'll be a stone, and then the circle will be...
The circle would be dug out and filled with, well, I'm guessing, like pea gravel and limestone.
Grade A with limestone screen. It would look just like a path.
It would be,
Easy cleanup.
the diameter of the circle is still up to us, but it will be flush and even with the grade of the grass. So, no tripping hazards, interference with anything like that, but we just thought that it would be a nice spot to help with special events, to continue this and not use the fields that we've been using in the past, where we've had a lot of volunteers and money raised to improve those. We weren't happy the last time we used it, so.
Is there a hose close enough?
I'm sorry?
A hose?
Yeah, that's right by the cassette. They were initially looking like out in the outfield. We moved it to that location for like a central location.
Close to the washrooms.
I have a hydrant available
There is.
right there.
Oh, so you can cook.
That we can just put a temporary hose up, just like we do for the fields. So I have a valve available from the concession stand.
That specific location was away from,
It doesn't interfere with them.
it doesn't interfere with any of the fields that are currently there. And again, it would just be just flat stone for most of the time until we use it for a special purpose.
The fire at Celebration Park, it's to be a good size, it's going to be big enough to accommodate that.
I believe that was 25 feet is the diameter, or?
I think I put the measurement out there. If you want to take a visit out there, I actually staked it and went around with some paint of the outside area and then what an inner ring is. But in theory, I developed it for our 550 dump truck, right? 8.5 feet wide to dump in the center, and I still had 6 feet all the way around stone for like the gathering area. I didn't want to go too big because it's right outside the future septic area if the septic ever failed at Hiller Park, and I want to maintain that 100-foot distance from the future press box that was
Are there
I think
any-
it's on that plan.
Are there any trees there, Vinny? I know.
Yeah, I'm 25 feet away from the tree, 50 feet away from my junction electric box, 25 feet away from my tent where entertainment will be in Celebration Park. I may shift it a little bit more, 25 feet away from the pad. Kind of like a good transition point for nothing to catch on fire. knock on wood. But, you know, we don't go too crazy when we do those bonfires, right? The initial startup and then it just simmers down. But easy cleanup, and I didn't want to stack wood. I just wanted to dump the 550 right out of the bed and light it.
Are we going to use or allow residents to use it?
I was gonna say, what happens when we drive by and somebody's got a party with a big...
So we'll have an issue with that. After this discussion, I think you have an ordinance in Chapter 8, which is kind of ironic because we discovered we wanted to add something for alcohol, and we're like, oh, well, now we got to add fire pit to the fireplace, which I haven't seen in Johnsburg, but maybe we have one somewhere, and the barbecues. You know, so I would probably say that would fall under the shelter reservation if you permit it, or we can just exit out of the plan. It's really just for special events affiliated with the village.
I prefer to keep it that way.
Yeah, well, for liability's sake, I prefer to not.
Yeah, we don't want everyone bringing in their golf carts loaded up.
And their gasoline cans.
Yeah. So at this time, it was, the idea was special purpose only for the village.
Maybe go.
So you're not thinking that if somebody rents the park, they could use it?
Well,
For
I
a
guess the special purpose would also.
If they got a permit
you know,
for a graduation party or something?
We will not provide the wood, though.
Pardon me?
Yeah, not providing.
Well, no. But I'm just
You're
saying,
going to be providing the wood.
say you rent it for a graduation party for your daughter.
I would get approval, permit or whatever from the village saying I can use that fire.
Well, I think we would just have it on the form where you fill out the rent,
Want to use it or not.
if you want to use it or not, just so we know what's going on. And that we make sure there's a hose there to put it out.
Yeah.
No, but I don't think I would be against that if somebody's having a special event. It's not like you just don't want it used without everybody knowing it.
Correct, yes.
So,
Yeah, special events wouldn't be limited just to like.
I can update the
Yeah,
shelter reservation for our parks.
does that sound okay with everybody else? I mean, if you have a graduation party or a...
I think as long as we're really specific about how to start a fire.
Pardon me?
Can we make that part of the permit?
Well, it would be on the application.
But then if they're going to do that, mark that specifically somehow, just so.
Well, that's what Vinny's saying. You'll
I would
put it
just
on
like
the
to add
permit.
an insurance clause if they're going to
Yeah,
use
that's
it.
what I'm thinking. It's just, it's a pretty big liability.
Usually when there's a private party like that, they gotta get insurance anyways for alcohol and stuff. That's the only way it's allowed, or they can't have it, so.
But if you're gonna do that, you'd want the ring then to keep the coals and everything in there, instead of having it just laying on the ground. Wing comes in after they leave and...
Well, that's why the hose is there to put it out. I mean, you're not talking a fire like we have at Celebration Park, I don't think.
I hope not.
No. You're talking, I think, a controlled fire like you'd have in your backyard.
I can put stipulations on the permit. Will not exceed a 3 by 3 by 3 in this prohibited area only. Will be inspected by parks and facilities or whatever nighttime patrol before the canvas of the night. I just threw him on the bus because he was standing here. I mean, they're driving around, they check Killer Park anyways at sundown, so it's like, Amber's in the fire? No, if not. We love calling the fire department out for little fires like that. Gives them something to do from the lazy boy chairs.
Well, due to cost and other things, I thought that this design would be better to start with. And then you could always add that if it became something where it's used.
You could build it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to save cost and any kind of structural tripping hazard or anything.
Mike has raised the issue that if we could always raise it up from there.
Yeah, the stone will be used as my base. Absolutely. I'd mix in a stone on the bottom to set stable, but yeah. The ring can be an after the fact. Option 2, future, see how it turns out.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, let's get it. Okay. Consensus is do it.
Thank you.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Okay. First read, no action. Move to approve ordinance 23-24-34, amending Chapter 8 Parks and Playgrounds of the Johnsburg zoning. Let's have a discussion and a motion. A motion and a second and a discussion.
It's a first read. It's first read, right?
Oh, okay. Discussion. Mike, are you addressing this?
I apologize, I was,
Here it is.
my
think that
my
would be,
tablet was not.
trustees'
The tablet is,
My tablet was acting
beeping.
goofy.
Came out of ordinance committee.
So,
it came out of
Yeah.
the ordinance committee. Okay, so Jamie wants to address it.
Yeah.
We
Thanks,
want to
Jamie.
put some extra verbiage in our ordinances for the parks, stating absolutely no alcohol unless permitted.
Through the park shelter reservations with a liquor liability or a special event liquor license being issued to the occupant.
Isn't that the way it is now?
No,
It is not.
it was brought to our attention in Chapter 8. Now, under Chapter 43, you have open container of alcohol, you have public consumption of alcohol, but in Chapter 8, it didn't specifically talk about alcohol prohibited in our parks. So in summary, if you have a special event license, i.e. food truck events or our celebration in the park, we can sell alcohol, we can distribute alcohol, but at any time, I can literally go outside in Sunnyside Memorial Park right here with a can of beer, which I don't drink beer, right? Some trustees know that. And I can just walk, and what are you gonna write me for outside of open? I'm technically on property, and I have permission to be on this property because it's a public park, so I'm not walking on a sidewalk or in the roadway. What can you do to stop me from having an open container in this park right now? That's why we brought this for you.
I thought that's the way it was.
No, there's no alcohol, liquor, any kind of comment in Chapter 8 as it reads right now. So we are just firming up the ordinance of what was the assumption of what should be in there.
Okay.
Sounds good.
thank you.
So that's first read. We'll act on it at the March 5th meeting.
And then we added a fire pit.
Yeah, that's
Next
First time
paragraph,
I
fire
had a
pit.
fire pit. It was perfect timing coincidence.
2 for 1.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
I'll
Motion by
second.
trustee Falk, second by trustee Foreman. Discussion on that motion? With there being none, trustee Morse? Aye. Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Feinstein?
Aye.
Trustee Foreman?
Aye.
And trustee Falk.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
That's your event calendar? Yes.
Yeah, we have it here. Thank you.
Take it with us.
Yeah, that's your copy.
Thank you.